Hey everybody, it's Brooke with The Buttered Home and welcome to my messy kitchen. We have some really good food for you in store tonight. We are highlighting our take on Louisiana Crab Cakes, and we can't wait to show you how easy they really are. Now I know it looks like we have a ton of stuff, and I know it looks like there's going to be a ton of steps, but we're going to give you just a few tips and tricks to kind of show you how easy it really is. Now over my burner, over about medium heat, I am starting with a cast iron skillet, and we're going to add in about 2 tablespoons of butter. The trick to this and really good crab cakes is to saute your vegetables first. That way you can have a quick cooking time that won't keep you in the kitchen all day long whenever you're making these. So that is key. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about the vegetables. And in our version of Louisiana Crab Cakes, we have green bell peppers, we have just regular white onion, and we have a little bit of celery. We've got about ½ a cup of each of those. And we're going to saute those in about 2 tablespoons of butter just until they are soft. So we're going to show you how to do that now. So we've got our butter and it's melting in our pan. And we're going to add in our veggies. And we're just going to cook those just until they're soft, and that won't take but just a couple of minutes. And you'll notice that we dice those kind of fine so that they will cook rather fast. So you'll see our butter is getting nice and hot, starting to sizzle, and you're just going to keep an eye on your heat. You want to keep it about medium. All this doesn't need to be cooked any higher than about medium heat. So while our veggies soften up, we're gonna add our flavor mix, and our flavor mix is gonna go right in to our vegetables because you want it to cook in with the butter and infuse all the flavor into your veggies, and then mix it with your crab meat. So what we have here in our little spice dish is just a combination of 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, 1 tablespoon of parsley, 1 tablespoon of Creole seasoning, a teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning, 2 teaspoons of basil, 1 teaspoon of dill, and ½ a teaspoon of thyme. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but all of those flavors really are what make the crab cakes, give them that nice earthy, smoky flavor. So we're gonna add those in, and this whole process right here only takes, just 1 or 2 minutes. So we're gonna add those in, and that smell alone, woo, it's good stuff. So we're gonna get those in, and you'll see our onions and our celery and everything is already starting to get soft. This is what kind of speeds up our cooking process whenever we put everything together and then make the crab cakes. So by just doing this little extra step right here, which really takes all of less than 5 minutes of your time, you're saving yourself a whole lot of time before you get to some really good eating. So, all right, we have cooked that long enough. So I'm just gonna turn my heat off. And then we're gonna take this and we are going to put it into a rather large bowl. And then we're going to cool that in the bowl and set it aside. And this mixture does have eggs in it, so you will want to make sure that you don't skip this step and you make sure that you let that cool. So while that cools, we are going to mix together our sauce. And this is a chili sauce, and it is made up of some real simple ingredients too. We are starting with a cup of our cream or mayonnaise base, and let me just tell you what I've done. You can totally use a cup of mayonnaise, a whole cup of mayonnaise if you want to. We're kind of watching our waistlines a little bit, so what I've done is I have put in just a little bit less than a little bit less than a cup of unsweetened Greek yogurt, and I've put in about a tablespoon of mayonnaise. This will give you the same result in a cold sauce, which this is, that you would have if you did all mayonnaise. And you put just enough mayonnaise in there to give it that flavor that only mayonnaise can give it. So we do have that there. We have just offset it a whole lot and added in something that's not quite as heavy on the waistline. So to this, we have about a teaspoon of smoked paprika. We have a teaspoon of garlic powder, and we have about 2 teaspoons of Creole seasoning. And this is our secret ingredient. This is Asian chili sauce, sweet chili sauce, and we have got about a tablespoon of that, and all that is going into our sauce mixture. And this sauce is not just for crab cakes, y'all. It's good on lots of stuff. So you want to keep this one in mind, and then we're just going to mix that up, and it's a really pretty color. It's almost pink. So we're just going to mix that up, and you could do this well in advance. And you could cover it, store it in the refrigerator. It's meant to be served cold because that cool little dip or dollop rather over your crab cakes really does something. And see, you've just got a beautiful color on it. It is gorgeous. So I'm going to make sure that all my spices are good and mixed up in there, and we've got that ready to go. So we're just going to set that to the side. Now I'm going to bring my cooled vegetables back over here, and to our pan, the same pan that we cooked the veggies in, I'm going to add in about 4 tablespoons of canola oil, and we're going to be slowly letting that heat up on low to medium heat while we assemble the crab cakes. So we have got our vegetables in here, and they have been cooked. They're all nice and soft. And to that, we're going to add about a pound of chopped up or flaked crab meat. We're using imitation. You can use the real thing or imitation. It does not matter either way. They're both really good. So to that, we are going to be adding in our other things that kind of bind it together. And that is going to be about 3 tablespoons of flour. And then we're going to add in just a little salt and a little pepper. And this is really according to your taste, but somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 teaspoon of both. Doesn't need much because you've got lots of flavor in that we cooked already in the vegetables. And then I have 10 butter crackers, and just for a little bit of extra texture, we're gonna crumble those up and put those in our mixture as well. And I'm just gonna kind of fold all that together just to make sure that that crab meat kind of finishes cooling off our vegetable mixture before we add the eggs. And the eggs is going to be your binder. So we have 2 whole eggs here that we have just slightly whipped together. And we're going to just fold those in. And the flour and the eggs and the crackers kind of bring everything together and kind of make it stick. Now, crab cakes, here's where a lot of people have trouble. They think that they should be doughy. They think that they should be floury on the outside, but they're not. It doesn't matter if you get them in Maryland or if you get them in Louisiana. You want them to be this lumpy crab cake where you just have more crab than you do anything else and not a whole bunch of batter. So that's what we're showing you how to do. So if these don't look like something that you could deep fry, well, there's a reason for that. So our little trick, and our oil, I believe, is pretty hot. I'm gonna just drop a little something in there and see. I'm gonna turn it up just a tad. So our little trick to make these come together is this big biscuit cutter. Now y'all, I don't make biscuits this big. That's, how many inches across is that, would you say? Probably about 4 inches. So this is best used for a mold more than anything else. So I like to drop it in my hot oil, and then we're gonna take the crab cake mixture and we're going to put that in the mold and just fill it up. And then we're gonna let this cook anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes per side. I'm gonna wash my hands real quick while we let that kind of bubble up. Okay, so now we have let this cook for just a minute or two, and it's safe to take that mold off. And see, it kind of held everything together until you could get that bottom started cooking good. And if you only have one of these, all you need is one of these. So we're gonna take another bit of our mixture and we're going to put it in and do the same with it. And you can make these as thick as you want to or as thin as you want to. The thinner they are, the quicker they'll cook. So I did one kind of thick and I'm doing one kind of thin. And we're just gonna let that sit there for just a minute. In the meantime, I'm just gonna check the bottom of this guy. And then we're gonna carefully turn him over. Now if you do make them too thin, they will fall apart. So just be prepared for them not to stay in this nice uniform pattern here if you do make them too thin. But we're gonna use this as a good experiment and just kind of see what it does. But see how nice and brown that's getting? It's got just enough flour and just enough of those crackers to bind it together, just to improve the texture of everything, because a crab cake in my mind is all about the difference in the textures. You have the vegetables and then you have the soft crab meat and just a little bit of that butter and flour in there, not butter, I'm sorry, a little bit of the cracker meal and the flour in there just to kind of hold everything together. I think that if you use too much of the cracker meal or the butter, then you end up with more cake than crab. So I'd personally would rather have more crab than cake. All right, so we're gonna take our mold off of this guy. He's not quite ready. If you notice that part of it wants to come with it, then your mold might need to stay on just a little bit longer. But they cook up nice and delicious and brown and wonderful. And just by adding that small step of cooking your vegetables, then you can kind of divvy these out pretty fast. All right, so I'm gonna take the tongs off of that guy. And I'm using my 10-inch skillet, so I don't have room to do many more than 2 at a time, but that's fine because you want to make sure that you don't cook them too fast, because you do want all that egg in there to cook well and not get, not be raw in the middle. Everything in here is already cooked, so you're good to go. If it doesn't cook all the way through, or if it does fall apart, you shouldn't have much problems when it comes to that. So now I'm going to carefully flip this one. check this side on this one. Oh yeah. There we go. You got that nice crusty brown on there, which is exactly what you want to see. And even the thinner one, it's a little looser than the thicker one and is probably more subject to fall apart, so do be mindful of that. But if you do have to stretch them out, you can make them a little thinner. I would advise that if you do make them too thin, that you might add a little more flour to kind of hold things together a little bit better. So I'm gonna take these guys up because they are pretty much done. And we're gonna show you how gorgeous they are with that sauce spooned over them. And I'm gonna let that one cook just a little bit longer. So we have our sauce, and now you can do this any way you want to. You can cut this with a fork and dip it in the sauce, but one of the ways that I like to do it is just to take it and just put a good little dollop there on the side. And that way you have this pretty little, just almost a little decorated plate. And then we're gonna cut into him and show you how delicious that is. It is steaming hot, and we'll cut overhead just so you can see how well it's done. And all the way through, you have a clean cut there, and that chili sauce on here really adds something. And I guess I call it a Cajun chili sauce, so because you've got that note of the Creole seasoning in there. So hopefully we showed you some really good tips and tricks for your crab cakes, and we hope that you take this very basic Louisiana crab cake recipe and turn it into something that would be great for you and your family too. But this is our take on Louisiana crab cakes, and we hope that if nothing else, this gets you in the kitchen cooking too. So make sure, if you're not already, that you are subscribed to our YouTube channel here, and be sure and ding that bell so that you know when we drop new videos like this one. Also, if you're not already, follow us on our social media channels at Facebook and Instagram, and we would love to have you visit with us in our messy kitchen there as well. Most Monday nights we cook live at 7:30 Central Time on both of those formats, and we would love to have you with us there. We have a lot of fun. It's just like being right here in the kitchen with us. So until next time, from my messy kitchen to yours and the buttered home to yours, we love you guys. Bye.